2, 1, go.
Welcome, Charlotte, Rock Hill, Gastonia, the USA. Welcome back to this latest edition of Under Construction. I'm your host, Jamal, the Angry Black Fan Darby. To my immediate left, Mr. Kaiser Sose. To the up at the top on the left, we got Rodney, Rob Pops Richardson. And last, and certainly not least, we got an old friend back, y'all. Give a warm welcome to our old friend, Mr. Vince, the builder realtor Dunlap, man. Glad to have you on today.
Hey, appreciate y'all for having me back, y'all.
No
First of all, man.
Before we go any further, happy Father's Day to Kaiser.
No doubt, man. I was getting to that. Happy Father. Hey, Kaiser, quick question, man. Have you had a chance to yell at your kids yet this morning? Has that happened yet?
They're all still asleep, but rest assured, I got some ammo.
All right, y'all. We got a lot to talk about today, y'all. We have a whole lot to talk about, so I don't want to waste too much time, man, because we got to get into it today, man. First and foremost, let's talk about our beloved Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers, in my opinion, man, kind of a diss. Maybe not, maybe. But, however, the Carolina Panthers conveniently left off a very important member of the Carolina Panthers past, Mr. Cam Newton, off their greatest of all time list on Twitter. Guys, is it a coincidence? Is it a diss? Is it simply just a misstep? We're going to start with our guest today, man. Vince, what do you think about the whole Panthers fiasco and leaving Cam Newton off the GOAT list?
To be honest with you, man, I think it was just par for the course when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. I think it's just a continued history in the disrespect that Cam Newton had to go through when he was in Carolina. And lately, the conversation has been does he stack up to the other three that were on the list? And I don't want to kind of like have that conversation as to whether or not he is the GOAT Panther. My first issue was the fact just whether or not he should have been on the list. Mm-hmm. He's the only Panther in Panther history to have a MVP, and he took a team whose best receiver was Philly Brown to the Super Bowl. For those two stats alone, I feel like he should at least be in the conversation. And it's par for the course coming from the Panthers. And I think it's harder to take this one because this is the actual second regime when it comes to Carolina front. So you're getting disrespect from like two different regimes. So that actually makes me think if there's something else going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but this is disrespect coming from like a second consecutive regime.
Gotcha. Rodney, what are your thoughts on the whole Panthers fiasco?
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
All right.
Obviously, Cam Newton is probably one of the best Panthers ever, if not the greatest. I'm thinking since all the guys they listed were retired, I'm thinking they're going with retired players. I want to hold out that hope that they're going for retired players because I don't want them to disrespect Cam continually. But I'm thinking they were thinking, okay, who's done playing and who's the greatest Panther? That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong, and I'm hoping I'm wrong.
I'll inject real quick. I saw a comment on Facebook. Somebody said the exact same thing Roddy said, and another girl said that can't be the case because apparently Baltimore did the same thing very recently, and Lamar Jackson was on that list as someone who could like
already
Raven of all time.
Oh wow! All right, Kaiser, what you got?
He is a current player, and the NFL is different from the NBA. I want you to think about when Kemba Walker left Charlotte and when he came back.
Do we have to?
I know. When he came back to play us, the love that he got. Think about how same with LeBron or Shaq or anybody who leaves via free agency or whatever. If they meant something to a team, when they go back, they get a lot of love. That doesn't happen in the NFL. When Julius Peppers left, when he came back to Carolina,
he got booed.
Cass was mad. Cass was booing.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with the nature of the NFL being like this super physical, ultra violent, competitive sport. So Cam Newton is not retired. He's technically a free agent. and he could possibly go to another team. And I think the Panthers would feel like, here we are calling a quarterback for another team, one of our greatest players of all time. I think so. I'm going to take the centrist view here. I think it's a little bit of, I think it is a little bit of disrespect the history Vince talked about, but now they've got that plausible deniability. Well, hey, Cam isn't a Panther, and these guys are retired. And plus, then there's the argument. I think most Panthers fans wouldn't even have Cam Newton as their greatest Panther of all time. I agree. He deserves to be in the conversation, but over Julius Peppers and Steve Smith, and then you could even make the argument for like Cam and Luke, like right there. I think the Panthers felt like they've got that plausible deniability. Like,
could it just be an instance of just bad timing? Like, just think about the timing of all this. Cam, just a couple of months ago, obviously an unceremonious exit from the Panthers. Like you mentioned, who is now a free agent, who's in this weird transition time where he's not even on a team yet. And then, I guess this is an NFL-wide thing. Could it just be an instance of just bad timing?
Well, I think it was a conscious decision to leave him off because we're talking about the GOAT Panther conversation.
Right.
So him being a free agent right now, if you list him on the list as possibly one of the GOAT, you're saying he's one of the top 4 players in the history of your organization. Considering the fact that he is still active, would that not further the conversation? Well, why did you release him to begin?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And not to mention, as previously mentioned, you have the Ravens who are putting a second, third year guy already on their list. So, Rodney, what were you about to say?
I mean, it's a slow news cycle. and
that's an understatement.
and to me, any news is good news. I mean, they could be getting their Tekashi 6ix9ine on trying to troll, and it could be just an internal troll job to just to keep the name out there. Let me ask
you a question. Today, right now, if the New England Patriots put out their GOAT list for conversation, do they add Tom Brady to their list?
Listen, let me answer your question.
They have to.
If they did not, let's say they didn't put Tom Brady on their list, Gillette Stadium will be burned down the next day if they didn't put Tom Brady on that list. Let's make that clear.
The reason why I asked that question is because he's still an active player.
It's not really debatable who the greatest New England Patriot of all time is.
Yeah,
whereas, right. Cam, really, there's only 4 Panthers I feel like you could even have this debate with: Pep, Smitty, Luke, Cam. That's it.
Right.
Ron Casey.
And
stop.
Yeah. And you could make the argument, like we said before, that that Cam is a French GOAT. But Vince's point about, well, hey, if he's the greatest Panther of all time, why the hell is he? Why is he about to play for the Patriots?
So let me ask you guys one more question. Let's say that Cam Newton was a part of the conversation, and this I'm going to go somewhere different with this. When it comes to starting a football team, most people will tell you start with a quarterback.
Right.
And we may not all agree that Cam Newton is the greatest Panther, but we acknowledge him as a great Panther. Right. So is it possible to have a GOAT player who is not a quarterback, even though you would start your team with a quarterback?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who's the greatest New York Giant of all time?
Lawrence Taylor, easy.
Lawrence Taylor.
Right.
Who's the greatest 49er of all time?
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice.
No. Joe Montana is.
No, I'm a huge Joe Montana fan, but the fact that Rice did it with two
quarterbacks back to
back. Steve Young essentially came in and did what Joe Montana did and won Super Bowls too. The constant was Jerry Rice. I think it's possible. In the case of the Panthers, though, it's tough because as good as Pep and Smitty were, they never carried the team. You could make the case for Smitty in 2003 when he won the Triple Crown.
Right.
He had Jake Delhomme throwing to him. But
right.
Cam Newton, like Vince said, Cam Newton took a team with Philly Brown as the number one. And he led the team in rushing that year too, and took them to a Super Bowl and had 45 touchdowns. I mean, that's just no Panther will ever come to that kind of statistical greatness. And this conversation was had with the Panthers social media.
Yeah, I agree.
They had this conversation.
Come on, you don't do this without having that conversation. So,
hey guys. This week I found out that Michael Vick had a better career than Cam. So let's move on.
You know what?
No,
let's talk about it.
One last question.
Hold on, Vince.
That thread is why the average fan cannot be a GM. Man, I would have drafted that thread. So there was a Facebook sports group that we're in, everyone, and it said, "Okay, who would you take, Mike Vick or Cam?" And dog, it's like Vick, Cam, Vick, Cam, and it's like how?
Listen.
So you're telling me you'd rather have the guy that was worse statistically over a longer career, had less accomplishments, and was arguably a worse passer and maybe even a worse runner. We're not gonna sit here and pretend like Cam Newton couldn't run.
Kaz, I'm gonna toot my own horn, and I'm gonna sound really conceited when I say this, but I think I answered that question perfectly on that thread, because what I said was it is obvious who the most exciting player was. There's a vast difference between who was the most exciting player versus who had the better career and who was the better player.
Yeah.
Even that, I don't even buy that Vic was necessarily more exciting.
I do. I'd say he was pretty electrifying, man. He was pretty electric. Listen, go ahead, Vince.
Watching it, I don't know if I kind of agree with Kaiser. I think we've elevated Vic's status as far as exciting, because when we watch him now, it's a highlight package. But I don't remember too many.
That's a good point.
I don't remember too many games where I'm looking at Vic and I'm like, oh man, he's like putting up kind of like Lamar Jackson. Like I've never had a Lamar Jackson reaction to watching the Vic. Vic was incomplete, 30-yard run. Right. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from, you know.
I could dig. That's a very good point, Vince. I could dig that point, man. Plus,
before we move on, there's a parallel between Michael Vick and Allen Iverson, but I'm not gonna dive.
We're not gonna go there today. I know exactly what you're talking about. We're not gonna go there today. Now, Vince, you had a question before we got on this Vic rant. What was that?
It was just to kind of like wrap up the conversation. Real quickly, let's add Cam Newton to the conversation. Who is your GOAT Panther and why?
Yeah, I'm a Steve Smith guy, man. I just look. I will be the first to admit that there's more fandom in my pick than there should be. I got to go with Smitty, man. I think he's the most consistent Panther. He played with less than anybody else did, man. He's my guy.
Okay. Kaiser?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Smitty because Cam Newton is to be like the LeBron James effect. He was this great physical specimen. He was highly regarded coming out of college. He was the #1 pick. We expected great things from Cam Newton. That's why we drafted him #1. Steve Smith was a third round?
A return guy. He was a return guy first.
To return punts, and he ended up being an all-pro wide receiver, 5 Pro Bowls, 4 times All-Pro, with Jake Delhomme and Jimmy Clausen throwing to him. He won the Triple Crown almost twice. I mean, the top 10 in every major statistical receiving category. That says a lot. Smitty's my.
One more thing before we go, man. Some people like to ask the question: is Steve Smith the Hall of Famer? My answer to that is, are you kidding me? Like, to me, it's not even a debate, man. That's my opinion.
The issue
man.
is that the Hall of Fame system is broken, so there's a backlog at wide receiver.
Yeah,
they only allow 5 to 7 guys every year. There are so many great NFL players. They need to revise that system.
Yeah, I think it's been 1 or 2 receivers that have gotten in first time. It's not many receivers.
Yeah, T.O. should have been in first ballot.
That is just a travesty, but that's another discussion for another day. So switching gears here, man. I got a question for you all that I know the answer to. I want everybody to raise your hand if you miss basketball. Raise your hand if you think basketball is coming back. So on to the NBA. On to the NBA's plans to reestablish the NBA and basketball in Orlando. The growing sentiment among the players is that the NBA does not care about their health. Me personally, I've seen more and more players become a lot more angry with this sentiment of coming back. Guys, agree or disagree? What's going on with basketball, man? I'm going to see the NBA again this year. I'll start with Kaiser this time.
The players are mostly right. I've always said that the NBA has the perception that they are the most progressive professional sports league, and there's a little bit of truth in that. But when it comes to money matters, they're not much different than their NFL brethren. They care about making money, and they're trying to jump through all kinds of hoops. How the hell do they have the technology to detect COVID? There are black people dying every day from COVID-19, but you want to start the NBA so bad that you and Disney and aliens create this device that can detect it on your players. That's absolutely absurd. Sometimes you just got, and I get it. Zion's first is rookie season.
Right. LeBron chasing the championship.
Maybe on the best team he's ever been on in the twilight of his career.
Giannis is just out of this world.
I get it, but this is such an extreme circumstance. We have a global pandemic. We have social unrest like we've never seen before.
Yeah, agreed.
Just hit the reset button. Just can it at this point. If you've got to do all these things and inconveniences, because would the game even be the same to us? Would I want to watch NBA players play at Disney World with no fans?
No.
Part of the NBA experience is the fans. When a player hits that big three and the crowd goes crazy, you want all that stuff. And I do feel like whatever team would win this year, you would have to put an asterisk behind their championship because they didn't win it under the same circumstances that every other team before them. So let's avoid all that. Let's just shut it down. Have a plan for next season, if there's even going to be a next season.
At this point,
start working on that. So.
Rodney, what you got, man?
I mean, to me, it's absurd to even do this. I mean, Florida is becoming one of the hot spots in the country, 3,000 cases a day, and it's just like I was listening to a podcast with Bill Simmons, and he mentioned. Basically, how the NBA had the conference finals right after King was assassinated in 1968, and how he asked Bill Russell a few years ago, was it the right thing to play the game right after King was assassinated due to all the riots? And to this day, he still doesn't even know.
Right.
He doesn't even know if it was even the right thing to do. This is a purely a money decision, and the NBA might actually pay for this on the horizon, man. I'm telling you, man. I just don't understand why you even go through this.
Vince, what you got?
For the most part, I pretty much co-signed everything that Kaiser and Rodney said. I've actually lost some respect for the NBA in general and Adam Silver as a whole, because I was one of those who had looked at the NBA as being very progressive when it comes to American sports. And when I first caught wind that they were wanting to come back, I kind of like gave a raised eyebrow, like, do you know what's not happening with this pandemic right now? And I believe it was Yahoo News. I got a notification from Yahoo the other day that said that Amazon, Apple, sorry, they're shutting down all of their stores in 4 states right now, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, because they're the 4 states that have been hit hardest by this new second wave. And then immediately after that, I get another notification that Adam Silver is doing everything that he can to still see these playoffs begin next month. And it proves to me that at the end of the day, it really is all about money. And we got a small glimpse of that a couple of months ago. There was with the incident with the Houston Rockets owner and China. And China basically told him to shut up, and he kind of like tucked tail and took off. And Adam Silver came back out, and he pretty much backed whatever it was that China was telling the NBA to do. And with as progressive as the NBA has made themselves out to be, we're finding out now that they just care about their money. It's all about the bottom line. And I've seen things on social media when it comes to the technology that they're coming with. The NBA has like all of these masks. They have all these procedures in place. So they're saying that players will be taken care of. But my thing is, you're forcing these players to uproot from their homes to come to Florida. So why not let them stay home where they're already safe? Take all of those resources and give them to the general population or the nurses and the doctors that are on the front line. So I think that those options are there, but the NBA is throwing all of this stuff just to play basketball. Like I've lost quite a bit of respect. And I know this will not be the popular thing to do. I kind of lost a little bit of respect for LeBron because LeBron, when it comes to the players, he's the voice of the NBA. Whatever he says, they're going to follow. And to see him say that he wants to play, I think that's kind of the wrong thing coming from him. And I understand I'm nobody to judge. He's LeBron. He's done more than I can do. But to see LeBron push playing with so much going on right now, that's a little tough to see.
I got an interesting nugget. Let me say this real quick right now. I'm gonna get right back to you. I got an interesting nugget about this. So our beloved owner, Michael Jordan, who amongst NBA owners is, relatively speaking, y'all, one of the poorest owners in the NBA. His net worth is not more than the other 29 other owners. Michael Jordan himself said, now, again, this is the Charlotte Hornets who did not have a shot at the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, Michael was pretty quick to say, why play games right now? Why put my players at risk for playing right now? This is coming from, again, an owner who's not as rich as the other owners are. And then Vince made an excellent point with Adam Silver saying, no, we got to get this done. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Vince, because I didn't know like the logistics of everything as far as the NBA coming back. So I'm really glad you made those points. So for those charlatans who will hold on to this narrative, Michael only cares about money. Here's another shot at your annoying ass narrative that is continuously false. Rodney, go ahead, sir.
I mean, and I want to piggyback off something Vince said. It's crazy looking at some of these analysts and people vilify Kyrie Irving for asking legit questions. Like to me, it's something when a thoughtful black man has something to say. And
why is it shot down so easily? Right,
it's just shot down so easily.
The timing's bad. I'll tell you why. When Baltimore was on fire, 4-5 years ago?
Yeah.
Right before Cleveland was about to go to the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Kyrie Irving said, "Hey guys, let's stop, playing in the finals, my chance to win a championship, and then so that we can address these social unrest concerns." So we can say, well, Kyrie, that was 4 years ago. Kyrie Irving's grown since then, but his situation is different than other NBA players right now. He's not playing. He probably would not play due to injury in Orlando. He has no chance to winning a championship. His situation is completely different than someone like, say, LeBron James, or not even LeBron James. There are some players, because NBA players aren't getting a full paycheck this season, at least not all of them. And there are some guys who are like, "Hey man, I kind of need to play.
I need to play. I need my money.
I kind of gotta play." So it's different for everybody. And I think the fact that it's coming from someone
Alex Caruso needs his money.
Right, yeah. he needs that money.
He needs his check.
Nobody knows who that cat is in LA. So, I think the fact that it's coming from such a high-profile player as Kyrie, who has said questionable things in the past, and I think it's just a combination of that. I don't disagree with his sentiment, actually. I just kind of wish sometimes the messenger is as important as the message. And I wish it had come from someone, someone not Kyrie or in the situation that Kyrie was in. So,
and I completely agree with that. I think right message, not necessarily right messenger.
Messenger, right?
Yeah, right.
To go back to your earlier point, Kaiser, I haven't held that against them when the earlier riots were going on. Finals, because there was no stoppage. And I think the reason why it's different now is because it's there's actually a break. So to actually go back to it is basically saying, okay, we're back at the status quo. Everything is good. Let's go back and play. And, obviously I don't.
Let me ask you, do you guys think that Kyrie or players that agree with Kyrie would feel the same way? Let's say the NBA was going back to exactly how it was. Let's say coronavirus got cured tomorrow and we can all go back to going to the games and the NBA was exactly 100% like it was before. Do you think players would have that same sentiment, or is it just because the NBA is trying to cobble together some kind of competitive ending to the season?
I think in that scenario, people would forget next week. If we had basketball back and it was quote unquote normal, and like you said, coronavirus was cured, I don't think anybody would have a word to say. Honestly, Rodney, what you got? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, honestly, man, we haven't seen rioting and protesting like this since '68. I mean, think about
on top of a pandemic.
I mean, pandemic aside, I mean, you got all the major cities in every state protesting like for 2-3 weeks straight. I'm thinking that this might have been a little bit different. That the players seem to be a little bit more woke about like different things that are going on and more knowledgeable. So it may have been a difference. I can't put it past them.
Yeah, until we see some sort of clarity coming from COVID as well as the protest. And the only way I think the protest will end from there is if we start seeing any sort of conscionable institutional change. And until we see that, I don't think every player would be on board completely with coming back. But in addition to that, a lot of NBA players have made the argument that, I got family to feed, I got mouths to feed. And right. I completely understand that. However, I think it was Rodney who pointed this out a week or so ago. The league minimum is almost $600,000. I haven't made $600,000, and here I am, still waiting on my $1,200 check that I may or may not get. That was just a joke. I was just trying to put myself in the shoes of other people. But I feel like if after taking 3 months off from your profession, if you're making $600,000 a year and you are now rubbing pennies, I feel like you got bigger problems than not playing.
Well, I think that's indicative of the system, and this is one of the things, hopefully, that gets changed. If you take a player that makes league minimum, he's got to pay his agent, he's got to pay his trainers, his nutritionists. By the time all of them people get paid, he's not making and the tax man cometh as well.
No doubt.
I think if you have a certain lifestyle that you live, and then suddenly
it gets changed out of the blue.
I can understand.
And I'm sympathetic with
that. They just have to make the adjustment, like really that all Americans are making. I mean, there are some people right now that they literally just don't have a job because their company said, "Hey, we lost too much money during the pandemic." So we're all feeling that crunch, and I don't think an NBA player is going to feel it as much as us normal.
Let me talk to Vince's point real quick about the players who are, well, not just the players, but I mean society looking for institutional change. And let's take COVID and the pandemic out of the equation real quickly. When you talk about institutional change, like real institutional change, that's obviously an infinite timetable. Okay. And we all know at some point in time, not just basketball, but every league is pretty much going to have to come back at some point. Okay. Not just for our entertainment, but for those players, for those staff, not necessarily owners, but for everyone else who makes a living off of sports, okay? And the economy and all this other jazz. They have to come back at some point. So, again, using Kaiser's example, let's take COVID out of the equation. Let's say they find a cure for it tomorrow. At what point do you come to this? Does it come to a head where Adam Silver, Roger Goodell, and all the commissioners say, you know what, guys, I know there's craziness happening in the world right now, but people have mouths to feed. How do you balance that? If you guys are commissioners, What do you say to that? Is there even an answer to that question?
I mean, if they have to come back, I would be vocal about my support of what's going on in the initiatives. I would let the players take the forefront and actually take into account their ideas and let them implement them. I would give my players the biggest voice. I mean, that's what you got to do at this point.
If I'm a commissioner, and we're going to go with NBA and NFL, we're African Americans. So if I'm a commissioner, I think I cannot wait for the institution to change from outside. I have to do it from within. So I think it has to be about the actions that they take to actually show the players like, hey, we're actually trying. If I was a player, and this is something coming right off the dome, and I was in the NBA, one thing that Adam Silver could do to show me that, hey, he actually cares is to bring in Craig Hodges and put him in some sort of executive position. And then Roger Goodell needs to bring in Colin Kaepernick and give him some sort of executive position. And then Roger Goodell needs to take that weak apology and actually say, hey, Kaepernick, we were wrong. I was wrong. We messed it up. And at this point, giving you a job in the NFL would actually be more of a slap in the face. Now, if you still want to play, go ahead. But let's bring you in, give you an executive position. Let's maybe give you ownership, a minority ownership in the team, something like that. That would be like one of the first major steps they can take forward. Kind of on the spot here, I don't have anything else, but take some of those players that have been ostracized throughout their career for standing up and speaking out and start bringing them in. And then maybe then the players may feel a little bit better about starting to play.
Right. Kaiser, what you got, buddy?
I've said this before on the show about the Charlotte Hornets. Follow their example. And I know that people are going to be like, what are you even talking about, dude? People who don't know, people aren't from Charlotte, but people who hate Michael Jordan. But look at what Michael Jordan has done with the Charlotte Hornets, almost to the detriment of the team on the court, some people would say, by putting minorities, particularly people that he knew, his friends and family, to be fair, but still, the Charlotte Hornets have more minorities in executive positions than any other team in the NBA. We have more minority ownership than any other team in the NBA. That's where it starts, because those are the people that are going to hire minority GMs, which we've already had one. Richard Cho. They're going to start hiring minority coaches. They're going to
Bernie Bickerstaff.
Yep. Yeah. That's where it starts. The NFL has to, they have to change their ownership, their team ownership structure to where you can have minority owners. You can have people buy stock in teams and allow them to become decisioning owners. That's how it starts. You start doing that, and then you'll start seeing the change that is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Obviously. Now, as far as any kind of institutional change outside of professional sports, I'll tell you this: I don't think players should hold out for that, because that's not something that players have as much control over as we would like to believe that they do. Some people are like, "Hey, man, you know what? If everyone in the NBA just boycotted police brutality tomorrow," no, it would not. It would not. The system and the powers that be don't give a damn about the NBA or their players. So all we can do is control what they can control. NBA player, they control the narrative of the NBA, and they set that up as an example, and then they use that influence to help social change outside of the NBA. So
right. So guys, let's switch gears here, and look, we're going to make a program change in the middle of the program. I want to give this one to Vince. I want our guests to be the lead on this next topic. Man. So, for those of you who have been under a rock, there is something going on with female MC No Name and J. Cole. Vince, I want you to tell us a little more about it, sir.
Oh man,
I'm gonna go get a drink.
Hey, Kaiser, give me one too, man.
What I wish I could do would go on Facebook to Kaiser's profile and take the post that he made about it and screenshot it here for everybody watching the feed. That was a lot. That was a lot. I I saw that this morning, and I was like, you know what? I think I need a drink right now. Right. Now here's the deal: the rapper No Name. I didn't know who she was until 2 weeks ago, or whenever J. Cole made the song, which is a week ago. The crazy thing is, I had been introduced to her about a week prior to that because, she went on Twitter and she made a tweet basically saying, you got these rappers out here who are making all this conscious and all this rebel music, and I'm paraphrasing, making all this conscious and all this rebel music, but now that shit has hit the fan, they're nowhere to be found. And, reading in between the lines, everyone assumed she was talking about J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. And
right.
A few people responded and they actually showed J. Cole was actually out there protesting. Like he was not on Twitter taking jabs at people. He was on the front line. So she deleted the tweet, and then J. Cole made a track, which, depending on how much of a fan you are or not, you may consider it a diss or not. I didn't take it as a diss. I've listened to it about 20 times.
Let me cut you off real quick, Vince. Let me cut you off real quick. Kaiser, I'm almost positive you are going to agree with me on this. If somebody want to call that shit a diss, then don't call yourself a hip hop fan. Please don't even come out your mouth and say, "Oh, I'm a hip hop." If you call that a diss, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Go ahead, bro.
No, you're completely fine. But here's the crazy thing. Cole took a lot of heat, saying that he's a misogynist and he's had beef with other rappers, and he never did what he did with that track and talking to No Name. And the narrative was, why go on Twitter to attack another artist when you could have just picked up the phone and called him? Even though
I can't wait to address that, but go ahead.
Even though nobody put that requirement on him when he made 1985 with False Prophet, all of a sudden now needs to pick up the phone. But did No Name pick up the phone? No. She went and made a response track. And then what happened when she made that response track? It was cool all of a sudden. Now it was like, oh, she ethered him. It was only a minute long. She straight up this, and I just want to know, and we're all from the Carolina area, or at least been here a good bulk of our lives. Where does this hate for J. Cole continuously comes from?
Probably the same hate the baby has that charlatans have for the baby. And let me expound. Listen, I have been saying this for God knows how long. It is like a sickness when it comes to North Carolinians and charlatans. We just have a hard time just kind of getting on board with our own sometimes, man. I don't know what it is. I don't have a good explanation for it. But the minute we do something, they do something we don't like, man, we are quick to jump off the boat, man. And I don't know why that is. Rodney, I got a feeling you got something to say about this. I just got a feeling Rodney's going to go off on this topic, man. Rodney, you there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, man. Honestly, this track wasn't needed from J. Cole. The response wasn't needed from No Name. They both could have just shut the hell up to me and just leave it alone. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Like, if I have somebody come at me and I'm out here doing what I need to do, I don't give a shit what you think. Like, I'm not about to address you. Like, you're not gonna clout chase off of me. And then I listen to the track. I can understand where some people say, "Oh, he was misogynist and like this and this and this, whatever." The dude called her queen.
That's where I'm coming from. Thank you, Rodney. I'm sorry. Thank you. I listen. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got that. This is what I'm really kind of intense about because, you have one side to say, he's had issues with women in the past, which I'm not aware of. I seriously don't follow Cole enough to know about that stuff. Okay, but when I heard the song itself, I'm just like, what misogyny? Like, Cole was basically saying, Cole was like, go ahead. Yeah.
People getting hung up on the word, your tone. Like, he addressed her tone. And that's where people are saying the misogyny piece is coming from. I honestly didn't see it like that, but I can see where people take it a different way. I mean, if you look at it like this, to me, man, No Name is like 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
J. Cole's like 35.
Yeah.
Right.
And think about it like this, man. These kids live their life on social media. So if you're out there doing something on social media, you have to post it. Cole is a little older. Cole has been, I remember seeing a video, a picture of Cole out there in Ferguson when Michael Brown died. Cole had his house in Fayetteville that he grew up in for the single mothers. He had, I seen him protesting out in New York. He doesn't post things on social media just because. Kendrick Lamar is not on social media like that at all. They're in their mid-30s. Like, to me, it's more of a generational disconnect too, man. It's just like these like Gen X, Gen Z kids are just different. They think different, they act different, and you just got to find a way to actually connect.
I got one more thing before I let Kaiser go, and there's a reason I want Kaiser to go last on this. but I got one more thing to say about this, man. In terms of, like, the question was asked, why didn't he just pick up the phone? Because it's hip hop. Did KRS-One get on the phone with MC Sanders like, hey, I'm going to diss you? Like, get the hell out of here with all. Why couldn't they couldn't just pick up the phone? Because they're hip hop artists. I don't know when hip hop got so sensitive about making quote. Look, even though to me this is far from a diss record, but when do we get so sensitive about making diss records? Like, miss me with the pick up the phone jazz, man, because this whole thing is not even that serious to me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I listen, and let me say this before I let Kaiser go, man. I really try to step out my own shoes and look at it from a woman's point of view because I do want to listen to what they have to say. I've heard women say he's had issues in the past with women. Not to sound like a broken record, but I'm just not familiar with that. So I wanted to step out of myself and listen to what they had to say as far as that goes. But as far as this song itself, as far as the present moment we're in, this is just off or not, man. It's so overblown to me, man.
And I'm going to co-sign that real quick, what you just said. I tried to do the same thing as well. I said, well, let me put myself in a woman's shoes and try and look at it from her perspective. And, we're all on Twitter. We're all on social media. I saw just as many women supporting Cole in his track as there were women who were, denigrating the track and calling him out. So the fact that I saw so many women that were actually in support of the track and where he's there made me feel good or made me feel better as a man that I wasn't myself possibly being misogynistic or practicing toxic masculinity or any of those other adjectives we got today and whatnot. So just to see that he had so much support from other women, I was like, okay, this might be a little overblown right here.
Kaiser, what you got, buddy?
All right, I'm gonna try and approach this topic with a little bit of seriousness because I think everyone knows like how I feel about this. But
that post cracked me all the way up this morning, by the way.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I don't think that No Name's tweet was specifically about J. Cole or anyone specifically, and for J. Cole to take it to heart at least enough to make a song about it, makes it look like mansplaining, like the rap version of mansplaining. And I think that's where the misogyny comes from. It's like, wow, you just responded to this woman. She might not even have been talking about you. Obviously, it must make you feel some kind of way. Your toes got stepped on. I see that point. Having said that, otherwise, it's much ado about
nothing.
Okay, two boring ass rappers. I'm sorry, y'all. They boring. And here's the thing.
I'll say the same thing.
Yeah, I don't even hate.
I don't see the boring, but keep going.
Well, I don't hate J. Cole.
Yeah.
J. Cole. A lot of J. Cole songs on my playlist, but I think that J. Cole is one of those guys where the rap evolves. Okay, and there was this point maybe 7-8 years ago where there just weren't a lot of good rappers coming out. You had K. Dot and then who else? And then Cole comes along and Cole's not bad, right? So everyone just, and he's from NC. So, he was doing it independently. Everyone just kind of latched on him because he wasn't bad. By the way, he's an outstanding producer. I think his production is
better than his rhymes. Right.
And then, his rhyming it's pretty good. So people latch on to Cole. No Name is a Let me give you a little bit of history about No Name, because I had actually heard of her before, but not in the context of a rapper. She was a spoken word artist who became a rapper. And to me, when spoken word, and I know I'm about to make all the spoken word artists and poets mad, but I don't really care. We already beefed over that in Charlotte years ago. That's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother story.
A spoken word artist becoming a rapper to me is like a guitarist becoming a bass player. Yeah, you can play the bass. Mechanically, it's the same, but
it's quite not this.
Yes, there are differences in being a bass player and being a guitarist. And so when I hear No Name rap, it's like, no, you're not at a slam poetry event rapping over Madlib beats. And I think part of that is because she's not a terrible rapper at all. So people, there's this thing in hip hop, like, because everyone can rap nowadays, if you're not terrible, then people are like, oh, yo, that's it's like, sorry, someone described No Name and J. Cole as TED Talks rap, and I'm like, you know what? That's it. It's TED Talks rap.
That's not a bad description.
I don't want to hear TED Talks rap. You gotta entertain me. And the most entertaining thing these two can do is have some kind of pseudo Twitter war with the weakest. They're not even diss tracks.
We cannot call these diss records. Yeah. No,
they should have like gone at each other's throats because the situation didn't warrant that at all. But what happened is that the fans wanted it to be so toxic. Fans wanted that because they missed that in hip hop.
It's the heightened emotion from not having sports.
Essentially, they were having
right. People are bored.
They were having a conversation over records. That's what they were doing. And I don't think either of them were wrong. You know, I think the points that she brought up and the points that Cole brought up were conversations that need to be had. But instead of celebrating this as, wow, look at these two hip hop artists having this social conversation using their art, it was, oh my God,
he's attacking her. Yeah.
So you know what? It's like, if that's what y'all gonna make it, then just.
So I got a statement and then I got a question for you guys with this whole conversation. First, again, I had never heard of any of No Name's music before all of this happened. So after I heard the J. Cole track, a few of my friends sent me some tracks from No Name, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought she's pretty dope. I actually like the music, and I can see myself listening to her in the future. Like, I really was jamming to a lot of her tracks. However, when somebody makes a tweet, okay, if we're talking right now, and if I mention conscious rappers currently, who comes to mind?
J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar.
So how could that tweet not be about J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar?
But you know what? See, that's like Rodney talks about today's generation. Okay, subtweeting is the thing, because back in our generation, you would have just said you
go see somebody. You go see somebody. Right.
J. Cole, you rapping about this and that, and you ain't out there in the streets. Kendrick Lamar, but either No Name was vague to have some kind of plausible deniability, or she didn't want that confrontation, or she was just making a general statement. But like Vince said, I mean, like you said, if you say conscious rappers, everyone, and to be fair to J. Cole, I could see why he thought maybe she was subtweeting him. Or maybe not him specifically, but that the tweet applied to him.
Guys, not to spoil the fun, but we got to move on. We could talk about this all day, and we probably will another time. But let's move on.
We won't.
We probably won't. You're right.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about something special this weekend. This weekend is Juneteenth. Now, this Juneteenth weekend obviously means a lot more than any other Juneteenth weekend that we've seen in our lifetimes. I personally want to share an experience real quickly that I saw this Friday. I live me and Kaza, well, we kind of all do. We all kind of live close to the west side of town, Batesford Road to be exact. I really wish I knew who organized this, but there was a Juneteenth drive-through on Batesford Road on Friday. Let me express to y'all, I have lived on this side of town for a long time. Batesford Road in particular gets a lot of negative press, There's always a negative connotation that goes along with the West Side of Babies for a Road. But allow me to say this. What I saw Friday is what this community should be. It is literally one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen on the side of town on that street. The Juneteenth drive-through was a celebration of just Black pride, the holiday, the Black liberation, just anything you could think of that's associated with just the beauty of being an African American. It was absolutely incredible, man, and it's something that I wish would get more press as time goes along. By this time next year, I just want everybody in Charlotte to really know about it, man, and celebrate it the right way. But Friday was just incredible, man. With that being said, guys, if you were the DJ at this Juneteenth celebration, and let's just say we were all DJs, and they say, hey, guys, y'all play 5 songs each. Which 5 songs would you play? Let's start with Rodney. Give us your 5.
Number 1, Kendrick Lamar, All Right.
There you go.
Number 2, James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud.
That was played Friday. Good choice. Played. Yes, sir.
Number three, McFadden and Whitehead, Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Very good one. Yes, sir.
And then I'm going to get into some of the more happier stuff.
Yeah.
Number 4, the Gap Band, Outstanding.
All right.
And then number 5, I'm thinking, man. I don't know, man. I'm on 2 right now, man. I'm thinking I'm gonna go with J. Cole, Be Free.
All right.
Okay.
Good list, man. Good list. Kaiser, what you got?
I'm gonna say Kendrick Lamar, All Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Earth, Wind, and Fire, September. I'm gonna say Public Enemy, Fight the Power.
That's a song on my list.
I'm gonna say NWA, Fuck the Police.
I thought about putting that on my list.
I'll be rolling with the top down with that turn all the way.
Hey, listen, a quick story. I was in my car and I was doing the drive-through, and I look, my finger was about to push play, and I looked to my left, and there was a cop right next to me. I was like, you know what? Let me chill. Let me not spoil this. Vince, what you got, man? I'm sorry. Kazi didn't finish. My bad.
No. I'm gonna say I don't know, man. That 5th song's tough because there's just a lot of good things you can play. I don't know. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna refer to Vince.
All right, Vince, what you got?
First track would be Big Crit. What the fuck?
All right.
I don't know if many people heard that track, but if you've heard it, you know what it's about. Tupac, Do for Love.
Okay.
The Fugees, Killing Me Softly.
All right.
Bob Marley, Jammin'. And then I'm going to go local, and I'm going to play Hanging On by Elevator J.
Okay.
All right. So I want to get to my list, guys. And I bought props today. All right. So let me know if y'all can hear this. This is my first song. If it plays. This is not working out. Hold on.
This child bootylicious? What?
No,
all
shut
right,
up.
Teddy Riley up here.
Oh yeah. Sounds Blackness. Yeah.
That's my first song. Be Optimistic, Sounds of Blackness. You gotta have that, right?
You gotta have,
For my next song, this is a repeat, but I just want to play it anyway. I mean, how can you not have this song? This is like the blackest song, one of the blackest songs that has ever been made. Like, how do you not have this? Now, I did play this very loudly going through the drive-thru at Juneteenth. I think the DJ was mad at me because he was playing his music. Oh, like, man, the hell with that. You got to play this song, man. Come on, listen to this, man. Come on, y'all. All right, my next song is it's not a very popular song, so to speak, and I won't play it, man. But the original song was by the Last Poets. It's called "You Can't Stop Us Now." It'll either be that song or the song that was later remade by Nas, which is using that sample. So "You Can't Stop Us Now" is the third song that I would put on here. The number 4 song on my list is "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." Gil Scott-Heron. And my last song. This song I won't argue about. Like, it just belongs. And I think more of us need to know the lyrics to this song. It is "Lift Every Voice." It is the Black National.
Lift every voice.
There you go.
We still in high school, man. That's why when you go to all black high school.
Yeah, and I still don't know the words, but don't tell anybody that.
Also, my 5th song, actually, you got to play this at the end, but Sam Cooke, "Change Gonna Come." It's kind of
no
song.
doubt.
I thought about that one. That one.
Hey, I got one more for you guys.
Okay.
I'll never argue with a Nas song being on the list, man. So yeah, fine with me, man. But I want to ask you guys, man. As far as like the Juneteenth weekend, like I mentioned before, man, this weekend is obviously getting more. The Juneteenth holiday is obviously getting more exposure than it ever has before. Why do you think that is, and is it a good thing? Let's go pretty quickly on this one.
It's a good thing. But then there's also some drawbacks, man. I just don't want to see white people in kente cloths 10 years from now.
Thank you. You stole my thought.
And Juneteenth gift cards,
right?
And all that.
Right. I don't want to see Juneteenth gift cards at Walgreens, and don't do what y'all did with grunge rock back in the 90s and making some trendy fucking Gap model shit. I don't want to see that, man. Any other thoughts, y'all?
It's a good thing overall. At the end of the day, it's our history, and more people are learning the history. So at the end of the day, it's a good thing. But to kind of co-sign what Rodney said, there are drawbacks, because even though this is the first year that the masses have been introduced to Juneteenth, I believe that it has already been appropriated and commercialized. And another drawback, I believe, I've seen a lot of African Americans who in years past would not even acknowledge Juneteenth, because Juneteenth was kind of seen as militant, or, the black rebel, stuff like that. But now it's, with everything going on, it's kind of cool to be pro-black and support black and Black Lives Matter. And those same people who wouldn't support in the past were kind of in the front just this past weekend.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a good thing because the history is being out there. But I think the appropriation will come with it, unfortunately.
Kaiser, what you got?
The capitalization of Juneteenth and black culture in general is something that we don't want to see. But that's inevitable. That's just the American way.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll say this:
you gotta take the good with the bad.
Yep, America has a history of not being embarrassed about its past. In fact, they tend to celebrate these aspects of their past, and so making Juneteenth a federal holiday would be a huge step in the opposite direction. Saying, you know what, we abolishing slavery was a big step in America becoming what we all want America to be. So let's recognize that. Good timing. Yep, that's my thoughts on it being a federal holiday.
What's up, man?
It absolutely should be a federal holiday.
Absolutely.
That was a big step in America. We cannot forget about slavery in the sense that essentially it is what makes our country. No one wants to hear that, but it is ingrained in the very fabric of America.
Hey, real quick on the federal holiday, man. Just a real quick answer for me. The only acknowledgement that we basically have all year is Black History Month, and then everybody just forgets about it. So hell yeah, it needs to be a federal holiday, man. So African Americans can get more acknowledgement than just 1 month that nobody really acknowledges. So absolutely,
I haven't
man.
celebrated 4th of July probably since I got out of the military, because I'm like, why? I would have been free July 4th, 1776. So until they federalize or make Juneteenth a federalized holiday. I'm not gonna. I'll take the day off. Y'all can still pay.
I was in the military and celebrating the 4th of July.
yeah, y'all can still pay me, and I ain't gonna do nothing all day at home. But Juneteenth is my.
Nah, bro, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So guys, that pretty much before we move on to shout outs, man, that pretty much concludes our show today. Vince, I can't tell you how good it was to have you here, man. Like, felt like home, man, for real, dude. Like off camera, I was like, man, this is like our Jodeci reunion, dog. So it was awesome to have you on, man. Real quick, we're gonna move on to shout outs. We'll start with Vince, man. Any shout outs or shout outs you got today?
I actually got 2 shout outs. I don't know if you guys remember, but when I was actually on the show, I actually gave Lovie Smith a shout out a while back because, we all saw what happened to him in the NFL, and then he ended up going down to Illinois to be the head football coach there. And I think he ended up giving them like their first winning season in like however so many years. But with everything going on right now, especially with the sports and the civil unrest, when it comes to, black coaches and whatnot, I actually just came across an article a couple of days ago that Lovie Smith, his coaching staff, has actually the most African Americans on it in the FBS right now. So I wanted to give him a shout out for actually doing his part to implement that institutional change that we've been talking about. And just a quick note, the school with the second most African Americans on it is Arizona State with 7. And would you guys know who the head football coach is there?
Herm Edwards.
Herm Edwards. Yep.
I thought it was Tony Dungy.
Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards.
People mix up, but we got another. So basically, the 2 schools with the most African Americans on it have African American head coaches. So I feel like that needed to be acknowledged. The second shout out I want to go with is more local, and it's the baby. The baby. You guys know I don't really like his music. I don't rock with his music, but he actually took a lot of what I felt was unnecessary criticism last week because he actually spearheaded a conversation downtown with the mayor and the police chief, and and Thomas Davis was actually there.
So you mean to tell me he actually took criticism for not sitting on Facebook and complaining, but actually doing something? Is that okay? I just want to make sure.
Apparently,
anybody let no name know?
Well, apparently because he's a rapper, he's not who we should be listening to. He's not the one who should be out spearheading these conversations. And he may not be as educated on what needs to happen, but the fact that he's out there trying to implement that change, that has to be saluted. So I just wanted to acknowledge him, good stuff for using his platform to actually help bring about some of that change that we've been talking about all day.
All right, Rodney, what you got?
Since I wasn't on for the past 2 weeks, I got 2 shot ats. All right. The first shot at is at Dabo, man. As a Clemson alum, man, I'm disappointed. I honestly, man, if you can't vocally support your players, I wouldn't have my son play for you. That's that. I don't want to dive deeper into that. And then I got a shot at the president, man. I mean,
that's like a weekly shot at.
That's a layup Michael Carter Williams couldn't miss.
man, this dude last night said Kung flu. He said he told his administrator to stop doing so much testing because the numbers are increasing. And then on top of that, he was just like, we should keep our monuments to honor our history. It's just like
he doesn't get it.
To me, it's honestly like we get what we voted for, and he's a reflection of the larger population of America who thinks like him. And in November, man, look, I'm not telling anybody what to do, man. If you want some change, you need to get your ass out.
I know you watching, and I know you absolutely despise Biden, and I'm there with you, bruh. You gotta bite that bullet. My bad for cutting you off, Rodney, but
look, I understand that sentiment, man.
I think
real quick.
People don't realize there's more at stake than just the presidency when it comes to voting for the president.
Yeah.
And if you look at it like this, man, potentially the next couple of years, probably within the next year or so, you're gonna have to replace 2 justices on the Supreme Court, and I don't want him making that decision. I mean, he already got 1 or 2 in. I don't want him making that decision.
Another 4 years would be catastrophic.
Kaiser, what you got?
Shout out to an artist in Greensboro. I think he's originally from New Jersey, but he's in Greensboro. His name's Jay Maxwell. Over the last week, he did a mural to our fallen friend, Lamar McNeil, a.k.a. Mr. Spot, who was shot and killed earlier this year. He made a mural with Spot as a black superhero, which is something we need more of nowadays. Awesome mural. It's in Greensboro. I plan to go down and make a trip, or go up and make a trip, take a picture with it. So if you see Jay Maxwell, give him some pounds, give him some love. If you see the mural, take a picture of it. Respect our fallen ones. So
all right, I got 2 shout outs before we go, man. Since we were not on last week, so we're kind of late with this news. I wish we could have talked about it last week, but we were all just kind of busy and had stuff going on last week. But shout out to our Charlotte artists that are responsible for the Black Lives Matter mural downtown, man. Like I could not go another week without shouting them out, man. And we have people that said, well, that's not enough, man. We need systematic change. Well, no shit, Sherlock's. But art has always been a start and an expression of that. So do not take away from what the artists have done. They did their part. Yes, we know we have a long way to go. So I don't want to echo the sentiments of my boy Blues. Like, that gesture is not empty on the artist's part, man. So shout out to the artist, man. And last and certainly not least, shout out to all the fathers out there, man. Shout out to my dad, Frank Darby. Shout out to everybody's father. Shout out to everyone who is a father. Enjoy your day. Please get the biggest piece of chicken that you can stand. Relax, yell at your kids, whatever makes you happy today, man. Do that, man. So with that being said, gentlemen, guys, I enjoyed this so much this week, man. This was a dope show.
Appreciate it again.
Continue blessings, everybody. Y'all take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, man. Peace, y'all.
All right.
Peace.